me introduce you all to the resource speaker for today. Today we have with us Miss Shivani Wadhwa. She is a counseling psychologist, remedial therapist, and trainer by profession. She's also a certified career coach, structure of intellect practitioner, and phonics master trainer with over 8 years of experience in helping children with special needs. She aims to empower individuals to reach their potential emotionally and academically, and her mission is to promote the holistic development of children with special needs. She's also founded the organization Samarthya Nurture a Better You. Who better than her to take us through at building attention in children with ADHD. But before I hand over the podium to you, ma'am, I'd like to inform all our participants that the session would be for 1 hour's time. The session would begin with the speaker sharing, following with the Q&A discussion. During the speaker sharing, the chat would be switched to the host and panelist mode. Wish you all a happy learning. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Revati, for the lovely introduction and a warm welcome. A very good evening to you all, dear participants. Today, we'll be discussing about improving attention in children with ADHD. You'll learn various practical hands-on strategies and techniques that will help improve their attention skills. So let me take you through the session outline. You'll be taken through a pre-recorded concept video that will help you to understand what exactly is attention, what are the various cognitive processes, the different types of attention, and how children with inattention can be supported to improve their attention abilities. Post that, we'll have a live discussion, and then we'll move on to the question and answer segment. Now, I would want you all to watch this video. And a very good evening to all of you. So before we begin, we'll energize ourselves. For those of you who are with me and listening, you could also do the activity as I do this activity with Miss Revati. Revati, could I have you here with me? Yes, thank you. So whatever activities we do here before we get into the theoretical aspects could also be used with children to help improve their attention and the other skills as we would be discussing. So Revati, now I would be telling you a few letters and I want you to repeat to me in the same sequence. Are you ready?
Yes, yeah.
Great. So the sequence goes as follows. B, 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 D, D, B.
B, 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 D, D, D.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, the other sequence. 6, 9, 9, 6, 9, 9, 6, 9.
6, 9, 9, 6, 9, 9, 6, 9.
Okay, great. Now, I will be showing you something. You have to tell me the color order of what I have shown you. Just carefully look at the screen of what is being presented to you.
Okay.
Can you tell me what were the color orders in which I showed the triangles to you?
Yellow, red, blue, and I think final one was also red, right?
Yes. Yes. Great. No. Thank you so much. It was right. So when we do these kinds of activities, the first one was the auditory one. So in the auditory, the individual needs to have the identification and knowledge of letters. After that, there has to be attention, auditory attention to be paid as to what is being told in front of the stimulus or in presence of the stimulus that is around. So the individual learns to filter out and listen only to the instruction. The second one was more of visual attention, where visual things were shown and the child had to remember and then present it to you. So in both these, the skills that were important were your focus, your attention, your concentration, at the same time, information processing and working memory. So these little activities could be used as energizers to pep your children up for the session. So we begin off with a recap of understanding what exactly is ADHD. So ADHD, the full form is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So it is a neurodevelopmental disorder that causes deficits in the brain. It affects the attention and the emotional regulation of the individual who is impacted. Another important thing to remember for ADHD is that it does not impair the intelligence of the individual. Intelligence is normal, that is average or above average for individuals with ADHD. The issue is that their attention and emotional regulation, where they cannot regulate their bodily impulses, is affected, which results in hyperactivity and impulsivity. Also, they have difficulty with organizational and executive skills. So, this is a brief overview of what ADHD is. It does affect children as well as adults. So, when we learn about ADHD, there are three types of ADHD. The first type is the predominantly inattentive type. That is, the individual has only issues with attention and not hyperactivity or impulsivity. So they have difficulty staying focused on activities. They are forgetful in their tasks like homework or paying bills. They miss out on small details and make careless mistakes. They avoid mentally demanding tasks where they have to sustain their attention for a longer period of time. They may seem to not listen when they are spoken to directly, and sometimes they also lose things. So that is type 1. Type 2 ADHD is ADHD predominantly hyperactivity impulsivity type, where the individuals are constantly moving. You see them fidgeting, they seem to be on the go, and they have difficulty sitting still. They could be excessively talkative. They fidget, squirm, tap fingers. Constantly, they need some kind of a stimulation to keep them going. They have difficulty playing quiet tasks, where a child has to play quiet games. The child could not mingle with the group where it is required to be quiet and do the task. They often speak out, they blurt answers, and they interrupt during conversations. So, this is type 2. And type 3 is the combined type where there are symptoms of inattention as well as hyperactivity and impulsivity. So, when we look at the prevalence of ADHD, it is more common among boys than girls, and it is a real medical condition because of the deficits in the brain. Many people believe ADHD to be because of bad parenting, but it is a real medical condition. It's a neurodevelopmental disability that affects an individual's life. So there are more than 6 million of children in the USA that have been diagnosed with ADD, and they're around the age of 2 years. 9.6% of school age children within the range of 6 to 11 years, 13.6 adolescents, 13.6% of adolescents, that is aged 12 to 17 years, have been identified. And the most effective way to help children with ADHD has been found to be behavioral therapy. In India, there are 12.6% of children that have been affected with ADHD, and it is more common among the primary grade level. As told earlier, more common among boys than girls, and early intervention is found to be effective to help children with ADHD cope. It's a lifelong thing. It's just that these children learn to cope with the difficulties and challenges that they are faced with. So, what exactly does ADHD look like? What is the manifestation of it? During childhood, it is considered to be or it's misinterpreted as bad behavior, intentional bad behavior. But in reality, they struggle to pay attention during school. They get into trouble for talking, they get into trouble for moving around, and sometimes their peers also become frustrated by their behaviors, which leads to bullying and isolation from the others that they experience. During adulthood, if it is carried on and the child has not worked on the ADHD behaviors, it can damage careers, relationships, self esteem as well. So, inattention symptoms can lead them to forgotten responsibilities, poor organization, they have difficulty completing tasks. There is going to be when hyperactivity is seen, they want attention, adventure seeking behaviors. There is high need for stimulation, and they are into impulsive decision making, which can affect their day to day living and decisions that they take in life. So, before we move to the aspect of attention in ADHD, or how are we improving attention in ADHD, we need to understand what is attention. So, attention is a cognitive process. It means that it's a mental process through which we acquire knowledge and information. So, it is understanding and processing any information through thoughts and experience. When we pay attention, it results in learning. So, now if I show you something on the screen, if you could focus. I showed you something, right? So when I ask you things as to what was seen, what was the first reaction, what would you tell me? You would be like, I saw something. There was a visual thing that moved around. So there was a visual sensation that happened. So you were paying attention to it. You noticed that there is a visual stimulus that is moving. Then you perceived that stimulus. You made sense of it that, okay, it was a yellow color triangle. And there was sensory registration of that information. There was visual sensation to which you paid attention, through which you made sense that it was a yellow color triangle that was moving, and that was registered in your brain. That went to your short term memory and long term memory. Then, when I ask you what was presented to you, you would be like, it is a yellow triangle. So, the process that you engaged in was encoding and retrieval. So, when we talk about attention, it is the first cognitive process that leads to all the other processes when we have to learn a particular information, right? So, sensation and attention go hand in hand, followed by these other processes to register any kind of information that is presented to us. So, attention is you are observing some stimulus by leaving out the rest. You're focusing on this in presence of disturbances around you. That is attention. It leads to processing of information from the environment. It is selective. Attention can be changed. So when I am talking and simultaneously showing this, maybe your attention would shift from my words to this. So the attention is selective and changeable. It focuses on some stimulus and that enters into your consciousness for retrieval of later stages. So, what determines the attention of an individual? There are two kinds of factors that determine the attention. You have the objective factors and the subjective factors. Objective factors is the in size, intensity, what kind of a figure is it. If it was something unusual you didn't know, your attention would have been more. If I'm constantly showing it, that is repetition happening, more of attention you would pay it. Suddenly I change this yellow triangle to a red triangle. This change is also going to cause attention. So these are objective factors, the factors in the environment that are determining your attention. Coming to the subjective factors are the personal factors. Is it my need to pay attention? Is it important? Is it my interest because of which I have to pay attention? Is it my motive and my mood? So, subjective are internal factors, objective are external factors, and all these factors go hand in hand for any individual to be able to sustain attention. If there is an attention deficit happening, in the attention deficit behaviors, what happens? There is inattention in the child, they cannot focus for longer periods of time. Since they cannot focus or the attention was not paid, the other cognitive processes don't happen properly. So there is poor short term memory, because of which encoding and retrieval becomes a problem. And there's also disorganization seen when there is attention deficit. We also have to remember that focus of an individual is short-lived for anybody. So even if I have to focus, it needs a conscious effort. It is short-lived, but if any distraction happens, in spite of the conscious effort, I tend to get distracted if something around is happening in spite of speaking here. So it's same with children. And for children with ADHD, it's much more difficult. So they need to be in a distraction-free zone when any important or attention sustaining activity is to be given to them. For like any other skill like reading, writing, attention can also be improved. It is possible to help an individual to focus on a task and increase their concentration and attention skills for a longer period of time. Simple activities, as we would be discussing, can be used to boost their attention, and constant motivation is going to keep them going. And the most important trick is to be consistent and work on it. So, what is important is that if I've decided that the child has difficulty with attention and I need to work on it, it's not a 1 or 2 day work. It is a work for at least 2 to 3 months consistently with different activities that we would be looking into. So, to help build attention, an important point is to set a routine for the child, to teach certain habits and rules. When a child is in a routine, things fall into place, they will get less forgetful. So, it helps these children to stay on track. Setting the right ambience where there is minimal distraction, because even a slightest distraction from the external stimulus can make them shift the focus and they actually forget what task they were doing. So it's very important to set the right ambience with the right atmosphere, not many people around, no people around specifically, proper lighting, proper study table, all these would help. Minimizing distraction, people watching TV around, noises from outside, all these have to be minimized when you are working for children with attention deficit. It is also important to reduce their own gadget and screen time. As per research, children who have been using a lot of gadgets and have more screen time exposure, they are having much more difficulty to focus and much more attention issues as per the current research. So their screen time needs to be reduced, because if you see on the screen time, it's continuously moving visual stimulus, right? So even in the environment, they start seeking newness and a lot of stimulus around. So a common lecture, or if a teacher is teaching a student, it is like monotony. Auditorily not, but visually yes. So for them, because of screen time, they have got so used to a lot of constant change, colors, and exposure, they are not able to take monotony from an environment where they have to sustain attention. So in reducing their screen time is one of the major things to help build their attention. Again, keeping the current scenario in mind, yes, schooling has got online, lot of things of learning skills have gone online. That is okay. Here we need to understand differentiating between the active screen time and the passive screen time. So the active screen time is when knowledge is being gained, right? So the individual is learning something to develop their skills. That is still okay, keeping the current pandemic scenario everywhere in mind. Passive screen time is where the child is whiling away time to be on screen. So they are playing games, they are watching YouTube videos. That is passive screen time, which is going to cause more harm to them than good. So that needs to be reduced. For children with attention difficulties, smaller breaks in between their tasks, where you're chunking their task, breaking tasks into smaller parts with breaks in between is going to be helpful, because they cannot sit for a longer period of time. So, if any task that you want them to do, make the task in such a way that they could do 2 lines of it, take a round, have some movement, and come back and again do it. So, the efficacy of doing the task also improves in that. So, to build on attention, there are different types of attention that every individual has in them. And we'll also look at the various types of attention that children could struggle with, or even we as adults could. And each of them impacts the life in different ways. So we need to see how best we could understand which attention is deficit in us and what are the activities to improve them. Mastering these types of attention is important for learning, safety, social skills, and function. Okay, there are four main attention improvement categories, or we'll also see the areas of attention. So, the first kind of attention is the sustained attention. Second is selective, alternating, and divided. We'll go through each of these attention kinds to understand what they mean. Along with it, what are the activities we could do to build that attention up. So sustained attention. So when we have to understand what is sustained attention, it is your or an individual's ability to focus on a task or event for a longer period of time. So it is you're holding on your attention over a period of time for the concentration that is needed in learning. So it could be during listening to lectures as we are doing now, that is a sustained attention ability. So even while holding on to conversations with people, or you are listening to any music, or you have to listen to any instruction from anybody, you had to hold your attention till that duration, till a task is done. That is sustained attention. Even while reading a book or writing, creative writing, your flair of writing, that needs sustained attention. You have to have the ability to pay attention over a period of time without becoming distracted. That's sustained attention. As the reading requirements become more advanced in older grades, they become a challenge for children. In the beginning, one or two lines they are able to sustain attention. But as they grow older, the amount that they have to engage in to read, to learn increases. That's when they have difficulty. So, sustained attention is to continuously maintain focus. So, if that is missing, how can you improve those? You could improve those through word search. You have puzzles and mazes. You could engage through those where the child has to find words. Word search, all of us get, where they have to find the list of words in the jumbled words. Puzzles, where they have to join pieces. If you're doing puzzles with children, remember, start small, then take big. It's not that a child of grade 6, you will get a 500-piece puzzle thinking that the child has to do it or can do it because the child is in grade 6. No, if a child has an attention difficulty, it is important. Start small, develop the I can do it attitude, and then move on to difficult things. Same way, child, be it grade 6, start from 4-piece, 10-piece, 15-piece puzzle, take it, develop interest, build that, and then move on to giving difficult ones where they start sitting for longer periods of time. So if you immediately give them a 500-piece puzzle and be like, you can do it, probably they have the capability but are not able to do it because of attention deficit. So start small, take it step by step with these children. So word search and puzzles work. Another activity that you could do is, we all get newspapers and pamphlets at home, right? So you give them a colored pen and tell them, I want you to cross out all A's in that page. Or in a pamphlet that has a lot of sentences, I want you to cross out all B with color green. So they have to focus, their attention is sustained across all the letters. You could keep doing it, keep changing the letter each day, and that's how you improve sustained attention. Write out a list of, you could also tell them to write out a list of words that start with a certain letter. For example, if I ask you to tell me words that start with the letter P, okay, we are sustaining our attention and be like, P is the sound P. So with P, I'm supposed to say words. What would it be? Pillow, pant, paint, pot. All those things come to your mind, and that is why we have to work on these things where you're building their sustained attention. The other way could be identifying a certain number of words. Again, give them a newspaper, count how many times the letter the in a particular article has come. I give them words like bit, bought, bit, bought, bat, bite. How many times did I tell the word bit? That is again sustained attention. Also, if I give them words like camel, fish, apple, zebra, ball, arrange them in the alphabetical order. That's also improving attention. Again, setting a timer and completing a task or read a passage for a certain number of minutes. Be like, okay, the stopwatch is here. I want you to keep reading. If you want to build sustained attention, don't be like 7 minutes, 10 minutes of reading. Again, start with 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, two, 2.5, three. That's how you progress by helping the child move. So, setting a timer, again, they are able to focus for that particular time. So, that is about sustained attention. When we move on, the other thing is selective attention. Selective attention is the ability to direct attention and focus on a task without interruption or interference from either external or internal factors. So, what happens is that we select on what we want to pay attention to. So, over here, you might again have a lot of distraction around, but you are selecting to focus your attention here. That is selective attention. I am speaking here. Maybe there are a lot of things happening around me. A child is playing, probably somebody is watching TV, but here my focus is remaining intact. That is selective attention. What do I have to pay attention to, irrespective of things happening around? If there is a student who listens to the teacher and suddenly there are noises from the playground coming, yet the child has to pay attention to the class. That is having selective attention. So it's the ability to select from a lot of stimulus to only just one. So if I'm sitting here, there's going to be a lot of visual, auditory, tactile stimulus that is happening around. But my brain's ability to select and respond to the most important one is the selective attention ability. And how am I going to improve selective attention? Selective attention can be improved when you are reducing the background noise. If I want my child to focus on what I am speaking or in a class during lecture, initially start off with this, reducing distractions from the environment. The position of the kid while learning also plays an important role. At home, if the study table of the kid is near the TV where elders are talking or where a lot of distraction and noise from outside is coming, definitely the child would find it difficult. So you really need to start changing position of the kids away from windows and hallways, reducing the background noise, limiting visual distraction. So if I am here, the surrounding around me is plain. So I have nothing to get distracted to. If there are a lot of flashcards, a lot of other materials hanging, definitely anything colorful would catch my eye and then I get distracted. All these needs to be reduced when you have to improve the selective attention. Working on auditory skills. When I started off my thing with an energizer, we did an activity of auditory attention. And I'm like, BBBDB, can you please repeat? These activities help improve selective attention as well. Even the previous activity, which I told as to how many times I'm telling a particular word in a series of words, that also could come under selective attention as well, where they have to filter out what is not needed and take in what is needed. For example, I'm going to tell you a lot of colors. Count how many times did I tell color blue. So I could be like green, blue, red, blue, orange, pink, blue, white. How many times did I tell the color blue? These are improving selective attention. Remember, with children, your pace has to be slower. With me, when I'm doing with you all, probably as adults, it is done at a normal pace. But for children, you need to take it as a slower pace and then increase it. So it's very important you work as per the level of the child and take it as per how much the child can take it. Not bombarding too many activities at once. Take it slow as per how the child is taking in and processing your information. The other kind of attention that is there is the alternating attention. Alternating attention is where the individual is able to switch or transfer from one activity to another. It is the ability where we are rapidly shifting our focus from one task to another, where again, my focus is on cooking, and suddenly I have to switch my focus to cutting vegetables. I'm boiling water and switching to cutting vegetables. There is alternative attention that is happening. I have to look here as well as look there, depending on the timing at the same time without harming myself. So also this requires a different kind of cognitive skill where from one activity they suddenly shift to doing another activity. That is known as alternating attention. How about all of us have known about musical chairs, right? Musical chairs also is alternating attention where children are moving in the presence of the sound. The moment sound stops, they need to find a place and sit. Again, get up and move. So that way, there are different tasks at different points of time that they have to do. So that's alternating attention. So at the same time, there are times when we want to open a laptop or phone for doing a particular thing, but there are a lot of notifications we have from other apps like Facebook, Instagram, but we logged on to send an important mail or send an important SMS to somebody, but we have a lot of distractions around. So what we do, we keep switching, right? We have the ability to do the tasks that we have on mind as well as be on those apps. That is alternating attention. So to improve that in children, you need to help them to practice tasks in which they are doing two tasks simultaneously, where you can give them sorting. You have to tell them sort colors here, sort sizes here. Musical chairs, all these are activities to improve their alternating attention. The next kind of attention is the divided attention. Divided attention, as we call multitasking, right? All of us be like, okay, that person is a multitasker, where you do so many things at one go. So divided attention is where you're doing a lot of things together simultaneously. So one's ability to focus on two or more things at the same time is divided attention. So here, simultaneously, we concentrate on various factors. So one example could be where we are driving and holding on to conversations as well as listening to music. So when all these things are going on and driving effectively is happening, that is divided attention, where your attention is split into all these things. And it's not an easy task to do. It requires concentration and it does require practice. If I am an early driver where I'm learning to drive the car and I need only the instruction to be given to me and not distraction of people sitting and talking behind or the radio. But over time, when I get the hang of driving and I don't need a lot of practice, it's a flair of driving, then I do not mind having conversations with people or having music on. So even divided attention takes a lot of practice and it's a ability that one has to have to be able to focus on a lot of things around. When we have to help improve divided attention, there are a lot of board games like Connect Four Comes, that is a two-player game that could be played with a background music or background talk that is going on for distraction. So you could also play verbal memory games with the presence of music. So you could also play activities like Simon Says, again with the presence of music or a lot of distractions happening. If you want to build divided attention in children, give them a task in presence of a distraction. That is how it is going to be helpful for them to focus on a lot of things. But when we have to improve a child's reading ability, writing ability, all those things come under sustained attention. So the activities of sustained attention should be more focused upon. Then once that is built, you could move on to these different kinds of attention to help build stronger connections. Then, when we talk about ADHD and the classroom accommodations to build the attention, it could be where minimizing of sensory distractions is there. For example, if there's too much of light coming or too much of sound, or outside near the window, they could see the other children playing in the ground. That time they find it very difficult to focus in the classroom what the teacher is saying. So they need to be away from the distractions around. The other thing is using simple language. When we talk of using simple language, it means that we are providing them clear and specific instructions. Two-way communication is important. At the same time, providing them instructions in a step-by-step manner, clear, simple, and specific. So it shouldn't be like, okay, I want you to do this, child forgets. It should rather be, first, I would like you to open your English textbook. Pause, let the child process. Go to page number 75. Wait, let the child do it because the child cannot take in so many things. So if you say English textbook, page 75, bit 2, part 4, everything goes for a toss for the child. So it's important that we go step by step, simple language, clear instruction of what is expected from them. So the same way, any information that is being given to them, it's important that it can be broken into smaller parts and a stepwise manner. So first do this, second this, third this. And also it is beneficial when you ask the child to repeat. Can you tell me what have you understood? Or if this is the instruction that I've given to you, can you explain me in your own words what are you expected to do? So at that point of time, you are also sure as to what is needed or what the child has understood. Is the child doing that? So you and the child become on the same page when you ask the child to repeat the instruction that is being told. Using visual cues and prompts to teach the child, you could have flashcards, visual representations so that they remember faster, addressing the child by their name, avoiding labeling. Because in classroom, sometimes when the child is not doing, or peers would come around and say that, ma'am, the child is not paying attention, the child is very hyperactive. At that point of time, it is important that we are not labeling the child, instead, always addressing the child by their name. To also improve the behavior of these children in these things, but it is important to use positive reinforcement. It's a behavior modification technique where you could also use it along with shaping and token economy and verbal praise to help these children cope with their issues. So, if you feel a child has paid attention better in the class today or during your one on one session, or as a parent at home, the child has completed their task, it is important that you are giving the child verbal praise. The child also feels motivated at that point of time. The other thing that could be done is we could give child extra time to complete their work, and these children need the e- extra time as well as constant reminders, since they cannot focus on a large amount of material that is given to them. It is important that we are helping them to chunk the information, wait for them to finish the smaller thing, and then move ahead. It is important their placement as discussed earlier. It is important when you're giving a place, it should be a consistent place. It's not that today you sit here, I've arranged it for you. Tomorrow you sit there, I've arranged it for you. One constant place helps them to be there. The other thing is scheduling. When you are working with such children, it is important that you schedule and organize their activity to help them follow it. So, setting rules, setting up routines is going to help them so that they fall into place and do not have to give constant reminders for the same. Positioning of a child in an appropriate place away from doors, windows is important. There are tasks that require physical movement or activity breaks that can be assigned to the child. These children, since they cannot, focus attention for a longer period of time, giving them physical movement breaks will help them to bring back their attention. So you could tell the child, okay, you can go have a round, fill your water bottle, or have water, or you can just for the if you have like one or two ADHD children, you're seeing there are a lot of distraction that's happening, you could play a 2 minute Simon Says also. That also helps the other children also to come back to focus. So all these things like sit, stand, or you be like, if I say the color red, you would stand. If I say blue, you would sit, hands up, hands down. All those things where there is movement of the body happening. Brain gym activities are also sometimes used. So that way they help them to be focused and come into their um, actual activity that they were supposed to do. So these physical movement activities can be of help. Engaging the child in physical activities like walking on toe tips. Or you know what I tell with these ADHD children is walk as slow as you can. What usually happens is that since their attention is flattering, they're always in a hurry also sometimes. So you tell them that I want you to focus and look on the line that you're following. Or you could draw pathways. You have those colored tapes, right? So what we used to do in the ground, we used to put them in the zigzag manner. We ask them to walk on it, or with a chalk you can ask them to draw it. You draw any random manner and ask them to walk on it. S, 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 or zigzag, 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 curved lines. Or I draw two lines and ask them to walk in between it as slowly as you can. that activity also helps build their attention. You can ask them to do push up against the wall as well. And then there are times you could also give them fidgets to concentrate better. There was a trend of fidget spinners that had come. So actually fidget spinners were invented for children and adults with ADHD to be able to focus better, though it became a play activity for everybody. But as per research, fidget spinners had come for children with ADHD so that they could improve their attention abilities. So now we'll be going through the activities that could or resources that could be used for building attention, as well as ability. It would be giving you a attention resource book, a practice worksheet book in which from easy to difficult resources would be present, and we'll be showing you that as well. So we'll be taking you through the activities. You could also do it along. Over here, if I give like this for sustained attention, it could be I want you to circle all the B and put a square around all E. So your instruction, they have to circle B and put a square around E. You have to see, are they able to do it? And it's always important. Try giving them instruction only once. Tell them in the beginning that I want you to carefully listen to me what I am telling. Only when you tell me you are ready, I would give you my instruction. Let it be only one take. Otherwise, children who have difficulty paying attention, they would keep asking instructions again and again so that they are able to do it. So you tell them initially, once you're ready, you tell me and I'll give you my instruction. But try giving the instruction or direction only once. So today I've given them circle B and square E. Tomorrow it could be give them a red crayon, tell them to strike A with red, and you can give them yellow as well, and be like strike G with yellow. So you could use this sheet for a lot of other activities as well to build their attention and give unique things each day. The other activity to improve their attention could be of the matching letters. This is a higher level activity. You have to start off with the simpler one. For example, I am giving two numbers, 1 and 2, A and so I can do it in the book or draw it with a chalk. Do it like this. Now I ask them to tell me where is 1 going and where is 2 going. So they are starting off and saying 1 goes to A, 2 goes to B. Once they are thorough with this and develop the I can do it attitude and have understood the concept, you move on to this higher level thing. If you give a child with attention deficit in the first go, the child would get confused and be like, what is happening, where, what, nothing. So it's important you start small, go from 2 things, come to 4, then you give these higher things. So you can curate your own things and try giving them and then give them this one at the last where they're going to be able to they'll be able to do it if you take it from small to big. That is from easy to difficult. You can actually try and see where 1 is going. So if you see 1 goes, okay, for us also at adults, it takes 1 goes to, so the child will be writing yes. So this is how you have to do it. And for everything right, it's always good to give a verbal praise to the child and avoid tangible things as reinforcement. Again, this is another game. Like I was telling you, on the ground activities also could be done. It's not always paper pencil. So on the ground, you could draw these kind of pathways. Okay. So you tell the child somewhere there's larger space, somewhere their space is less. Then again, the space increases. So you tell them walk between this carefully without touching these lines. Or they will remember we have those poles in school we used to draw. We used to have them red color cones. We tell them, okay, walk between these in the zigzag manner. So each cone is placed here, so they keep running. These are also attention building activities. It could also be like you draw a zigzag. Ask them to walk on this as slowly as possible. So they have to focus or walk tiptoed. These are also activities that you could do on the outside in the ground. Again, we have these kind of activities. This is a sensory mat using the hands and the feet. So you get this mat available online as well. So wherever there is feet, they need to put their feet bent to put their hand. Again, feet and hand sometimes there are there. See, here you have the feet, then the hand. There is a cross thing over here. So as per the instruction, their body keeps moving and they need to focus. There is spatial orientation, there is directions, there are a lot of things that get involved when they are doing this mat activity. Then again, the other activity that could include for visual attention is this image. Can you find how many are there? One, two. This cannot be counted because it is smaller here. So you have to give them time to think, or you have to tell them colors. So this activities could also help build their attention. Again, here, when this is there, this is a very useful thing in which you can come up with a lot of activities with just one sheet. You can tell them track from 1 to 26. You could also tell them track from A to Z. So I tell them 1, find 2, find 3. That way they have to move on and do it. If I tell them this is your starting point, find 2, find 3, find 4, go ahead. Same way, if they have to find for A, B, C, D, keep marking A, B, C, D, E. So this is how they could do. Or you could also tell them join all red colors, join all blue colors. If it's a basic easy one, you could make different color rounds. You could also tell them A1, then from 1 come to B, B2, then C3. That's how you complicate. You could also tell them circle the vowels, circle the consonants, circle the odd numbers, circle the even numbers. Up to you how you use this sheet to build their attention with each concept on a different day. This is another interesting activity that you could give them. You are asking them to go through this. The rules are this. This is the rule that is given. In the rule, they have to put a circle when the number comes first. For example, this number 3 and letter K. So the number is coming first. So if the number comes first, I am circling it. But if the letter comes first, like L, I have to strike. This is also a very good attention boosting activity that you could do, and you could record the times of the child here. You could have one master copy take Xeroxes and make them do it each time. So first time, how many did the child do correctly? You write it down. Out of all this, the child could do 7 or gave up after 7 times doing correctly. All of it has to be mentioned with date. So after 10 trials, it is known that their memory, working memory, as well as their attention improves with this. The other activities that you could give them are matching the shadow to its picture. This is again level 1 where you're giving off the easier one. After this easy one, you take them to the difficult one. So there it is, where you're asking them to figure out and do. Again, if you see here, they will get distracted and be like, okay, which is which? As adults, we'll be able to do it. But for children, yeah, first and last would be easier. These three, they would get stuck because they are more of similar looking kind. Again, you have to devise it as per the age and the level of the child. After the shadowing activities, you could also get into pattern drawing. When we get into pattern drawing, give them colors, ask them to color as shown. So they have to copy the same pattern and do it. This is easier than followed by the difficult. This is another activity which you could give them dots. Show them, you could make, I'll just annotate. Yeah. You could make these as flashcards, or you could have cutouts of this, whereas these are given to the child. You could show this for around 2 to 3 minutes. Let the child process. Initially, you're giving 2 to 3 minutes. If you see the child is able to do it quickly after you hide it off, then you reduce the time to a minute, then to 30 seconds. Start up from giving more time to reducing the time to see how much is the child able to recollect, reproduce, and do it. So you make flashcards of these, give these to the child, and the child has to do it. So if I show this, after looking at it, the child should exactly be able to do as shown. You could also give them matchsticks, you could give them toothpicks to do this activity as well to make it much more better, more interesting as well, always not using the paper pens. So this is also the visual perceptual worksheet that again improve their attention. So the earlier one was the easier level, followed by the difficult level here. This is also another attention worksheet where we are using the mazes. Mazes are used to help again build their sustained attention. Though they have to see, am I going? No, I am getting stuck again. They have to figure out which way do we go. We go here, again get stuck. So that is how this is the tough level. You give them with the easy ones and then ask your child to do it. I hope I'm not stuck. So yeah, so you have to ask the child, yes, this is the pathway. So you help child to do it. So in this way, this is a difficult one. You give off the easy one and then move to the difficult one. Word search, mazes, puzzles, all of these also help improve. So these are the activities that you could have. And this is the ability resource, that is the attention span workbook. Again, has a lot of activities for you all to pick up and do it with children. Again, remember the trick is to be consistent while doing these activities. You can pick up and do any activity, but it needs to be done on a daily basis for at least 2 to 3 minutes so that your child is getting the hang of it. Today, the child would put in 2 minutes to do it, tomorrow, 3, 4, and once this has developed, you could see that generalizing in their academic skills as well. So, this is how you could build attention in children. Now, all of you have watched about the different kinds of attention, the various strategies that can be used to build attention. So now we'll have a quick case discussion. So I would want your answers in the chat box, please. So there is a case which I will be presenting. Yeah. So we have Rahul. Rahul is in grade 2. He gets distracted easily whenever a teacher is teaching in the class. He loses track of what is taught and loves to see what is happening outside the window. What can the teacher do to help him stay focused? You could put your answers in the chat box. What can the teacher do to help him stay focused? Change his seating, change his position, positive reinforcement, wonderful. Make him sit near to the teacher. He's not supposed to sit near the window. Constant motivation, engaging him in activities, reinforcement, environment has to be changed, buddy system, prompting, wonderful. Okay, frequently ask questions to get his attention. Reminders have to be given, movement, make him sit away, visual prompts, yes. Change position, some physical activity also the teacher has to imbibe, great. What else? Give him small activities to do to divert the attention, encouragement. Call his name. Yes, verbal prompts also help the child to get back to attention. Refer him by name, or sometimes we could also have non-verbal cues because calling out the name sometimes gets difficult in a physical classroom. So the teacher could go and give a pat on the back. Use icebreakers in the class. Okay. You can have an attention word. Yes. So for everybody, if you see anybody getting distracted, you can say the moment I say yellow, that means I've seen somebody get distracted. And that's when the entire class gets alert. Very nice. Brain gym activities, giving him visual prompts of lessons. Transfer him away from windows. Yes. So timer to be set, give him something to fidget. Yes, so a lot of things teachers can do, and teachers also play an important role in supporting children with ADHD. Now, yes, breaking the task into smaller pieces also will help. We have another case. Thank you all for this response. Now we have Anna. What does Anna do? Anna makes careless mistakes. She has difficulty following instructions. And whenever she is given a task like solving puzzles or copying from the board, she refuses to do so. Her mother struggles to make her complete her homework. What can Anna's mother do to improve Anna's attention? Give simple instructions, give visual cues. Okay. Token economy could be used, task analysis, chunking the information, giving easy instructions, clear, simple instructions, slowing down on pace while talking to her, repeating instructions, okay, setting timer, positive reinforcement, very important as parents, okay, break her task into small, motivate, giving encouragement, positive reinforcement, unconditional positive regard. Yes, assign the task. Okay, when it comes with a gift, yes, not materialistic, but a verbal praise would help. Step by step instructions, take one thing at a time, and also one on one instruction. Simple ways to do it. Use reinforcers, guided instruction. Very nice. Motivate, use verbal cues, visual cues, use memory board, okay? Encourage her in a positive way. Simplifying the instructions, okay? Making sure she understands, very important. When the task has to be done, the child should understand what he or she is expected to do. Simple instruction, role playing, okay? Using positive enforcement, great. Dividing the time, scheduling, timetable, yes. Creating a routine for children with ADHD definitely helps. ABA techniques, encouraging limiting distractions, very important when you're working with children who have difficulty sustaining attention. Scheduling, knowing her interest and giving it, starting small, okay, reinforcing her, wonderful repetition of instructions. So I've got an exhaustive list where all of you have stated how the parent as well as the teacher could have been helped. So let me take you through a few key takeaways from the recording as well as the session. Remember that attention is a foundational skill for learning. As you saw, it's the first cognitive process that leads to the other processes that happen. Attention can definitely be improved and made automatic, but with practice. So it's important to be consistent in implementing these strategies for desired output. And as per research, using the attention building activities for about 2 months with 20 minutes of practice for 5 days a week will build the attention muscle of children. So consistency is the key. You start working with smaller targets and then do it every day. You will see that with these activities, the child will be able to sustain attention better. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for an informative and engaging sessions, ma'am. We have learned a lot of activities from you today. Before we start with the Q&A discussion for today, I'd like to take the participant through a few things. A lot of participants who've been asking about where is that we can find the recording, the slide deck, and the resources. This is the place where you'll find all of it. So by going into the events takeaway page, you'll find the documents with that of the slide deck, the overview document, the resources that are prepared for the workshop, and also the recording of the workshop, which will be uploaded in 2 to 3 days. And the resource that ma'am spoke about in the workshop will also be uploaded here. So you can have a look, and also don't forget to rate them and let us know how effective it has been for you. And not only that, you'll also be able to find all the upcoming events when you scroll down. So do check out all the upcoming events, and don't forget to register yourself to book your slots today. I'd like to reiterate that a lot of time and effort goes on to producing the events and also creating the resources. If you have benefited from our events and our resources, you can share about our certificate programs to improve outcomes of children with special needs. You can create and share resources on our platform and also be an inclusion champion to advocate for Abilities mission and bring a positive change to the world. I'd like to now share with all of you about our upcoming events. We have an upcoming event on strategies and techniques to improve handwriting skills for children with academic challenges and special needs happening on the 5th of March, conducted by Dr. Neeta Mehta. Following that, we have another event on building expressive writing skills in children with special needs, a basic level, which would be happening on the 15th of March, conducted by Madam Geeta Gopi N. The link to register for both the event is being shared right now in the chat box. Don't forget to register yourself to book your slots because we have limited slots available, and hoping to see all of you in the event. This event would be happening at 4:30 p.m. Indian time, 6 p.m. Indonesian time, 7 p.m. Singapore and Philippines time. Ma'am, now are you ready to take the first question for today?
Yes.
So the first question is from Ms. Alok Kumar. You briefly mentioned about the role of screen time and its impact on attention. So you could give us a detail on whether screen time actually plays a role in causing ADHD. What is the correlation between both of it?
Okay. So as per research, there are a lot of studies going on why children actually have a lesser attention span and why they are not able to sustain their ability. So it was seen that children who are exposed to gadgets had lower attention span as well as their speech was developed at a lower rate because there's constant movement happening and the child is not interacting or engaging. The child gets engrossed in the color, the visuals, the animations. But when the child comes in the environment, things are not as colorful as they look in the visual stimulus. So the child misses out and loses, cannot stay focused more. So that's the correlation that a lot of researchers are making. And for children who are at the age of 0 to 5 years, it's stated that if you want the child to develop better attention span and also not have speech delays, it is important that we reduce their gadget and screen time.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your insight. Now we have a question from one of the parent who wants to know that the child has been recently diagnosed with ADHD and he's into a lot of therapies with that of CBT, sensory therapies. And for the last 2 months, he's been into the therapies per se. Now the parent is not sure on how to progress further. So could you suggest on what are the other ways that the parent could take to help the child better?
Sure. So when you have figured out the child is having challenges, first comes observation. That's when you identify the child is having certain challenges. Post that, you seek professional help where the identification of the challenge is there. After that, intervention comes where you're going to help the child overcome and cope with it. That's your management strategies. So there are various kinds of therapies that come along. So for children with ADHD, occupational therapy really helps. Remedial therapy, here you help them to learn techniques and also improve their cognitive abilities. And the other thing that is helping children with ADHD is actually the cognitive training. That's usually designed for children with ADHD where they're able to improve their attention. So if you have to choose among the therapies, also ensure that the child only has ADHD. If there are other comorbid things like autism or a learning disability, the therapeutic intervention changes. So it's all child specific. We have to identify what is the need of the child, speak to a professional, what are the challenges and what is the therapy that that child requires. So it completely depends upon what your child is going through, what are the major challenges and the skill deficit. So based on that, the therapy is designed, that is the individualized education plan is to be designed. So for children with ADHD, occupational therapy will be of help.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your insight. I'm sure the parent would have benefited from it. Next, we have a question from Ms. Fozia. She's also asking a very case-specific question. She says her son is 5 years old and she's not consulted the doctor, but she assumes or presumes that the child may have ADHD because he has difficulty in focusing on one activity. And after a minute, he tends to switch to another activity, loses interest. He doesn't like to follow instruction and he also engages in fighting. So the parent is really worried about the child's behavior. So if you could guide the parent on the way forward again here, that would be helpful.
So since the parent has specified that they have not sought professional help, There are times we engage in self diagnosis of the child. I would like to request you all to not do that. When you see that your child is facing challenges, similar things from past 3 to 6 months, it's always suggested that you seek professional help and guidance. When there is professional help and guidance that is given, at that point of time, we are not losing out on the time and the gap does not increase. So if I know that my child needs help and when I seek professional help, I would identify what is the challenge the child is facing. At that point of time, intervention could be timely. If I am not seeking help at the right time, the intervention will be delayed, which will lead to more gaps and skill deficits. So, here I would request the parent to seek professional help since the child is having challenges. So, with professional guidance, you will identify whether it is ADHD or it's another challenge. And based on that, the intervention can be planned. So, seeking professional help is extremely important at the right time instead of self diagnosing.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next, we have a question on similar lines from Mr. Abdullah and multiple others who wants to know what is the role and importance of early intervention, and is ADHD a lifelong phenomena? Can children, is there a ray of hope for parents to help children come out of ADHD?
Okay, that's a very commonly asked question that, you know, will children be cured? Will they come out of ADHD? So let me tell you, ADHD continues lifelong. It is just that children learn to manage their difficulties in a better way with therapies. So here comes the role of early intervention. If the child is identified earlier that these are the challenges the child is facing, the therapy and the management would start earlier. So when the management or the intervention starts earlier, the problems are lesser. They are lesser in identify that okay, the child is facing difficulty in only one or two situations, but as they grow they might face various other challenges. So if intervention is provided at the right time, the gaps are filled, the skill deficits are filled at the right time, so the early intervention becomes very helpful. So when the early intervention begins, the child learns to manage. So when you're doing here, when attention is being a problem, the child is not able to focus even for 30 seconds. But with these activities, what happens is that at least from 30 seconds, the child would move up to 45 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and 5 minutes. So it increases as you keep practicing with the child. Same way, the child learns to manage. Child learns self-regulation with these activities, and as they become adult, there's more of a control. So it goes on, but the individual learns self-management skills.
Next, we have a question from Ms. Rashika, who wants to know what is the basic difference between ADHD and ADD, because you mentioned about that while you're talking about the research. And she wants to know, is there any difference in the approach that parents have to take if the child has ADD from that of ADHD?
So when we talk of ADD was a term that was earlier used known as attention deficit disorder. But now, as per the current DSM-5, DSM-5 TR that states that in ADHD itself, ADHD is a component. It's type 1 ADHD now, which we name it as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, predominantly inattentive type. This is a new name where ADD is incorporated into ADHD itself. So when you have to work for children, the same strategies could definitely be applied. And when we speak of strategies, please modify it as per the age of the child, what the child knows, and start small. I have given you a variety of activities, but you can definitely make it to a very easier level and then plan. If you were doing the copying pattern, you can give the child only 4 blocks colored initially if the child is of a younger age. So you have to match and see what works for your child and accordingly plan. So same activities could definitely be applied to ADD as well. ADD refers to inattention, attention deficit. So those activities can definitely be applied.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for clearing the difference between ADD and ADHD and also emphasizing on the fact of individualizing the plan for the child per se. Next, we have a question from Ms. Sri Ranjani, who wants to know, is divided attention and habit that we need to build in children, and how is it important in daily life?
Divided attention comes usually when we are growing up as adults. But if you ask me which attention should be built in children, We use all kinds of attention. If you have to analyze, yes, there are times I engage in divided, alternating, sustained attention. But if I have to imbibe in children, start working first on sustained attention. That is what will help them to follow information, follow instructions, and get the task done effectively. That what is being told, they are focusing their attention on it to give the desired output. So it's extremely important. Start with the child one on one. Have eye contact when you're speaking with the child and giving instructions. Give it in a slow paced, clear, specific instructions. So when you ask me, should it be a habit develop? But first, I would say work on the other things. Divided attention will slowly come through as the child is exposed to various activities and tasks.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next, we have a question from Ms. Debashri, who wants to know how is that we can improve and increase attention of children, especially in academic tasks. Because children tend to pay attention in activities like this, but when it comes to academic tasks, they tend to lose interest. So how is that we can sustain their attention in academic tasks?
A very important question. So what we usually do is we look out for academic tasks. But if the child is not able to sustain attention in these small activities, the generalization would not happen. So if the child's interest is not built in academics because it requires sustained mental effort. The child has to learn long answers, remember spellings. But when it comes to activities, it's a playway methodology. So once I'm doing this activity, slowly I could also move on to fill in the blanks after one activity. Start off with this, take it up as an energizer that you're doing with the child, give a movement break, then come back to the activity or the learning that the child has to do. Also, you can, when I was saying, right, the hand and feet, if I am teaching for younger children, I could write on the ground B, D, F, R, G, ask them to jump on it. So you modify it and make that also into playway methodology. If they have to learn, I could also create mind maps for them that becomes easier. So when you want their academics to be there, we chunk information as we learned, we break it into smaller pieces and give it to the child to study, but don't start off with a lot of information. The child has to understand, but also at the same time have sitting tolerance and the ability to pay attention. So for the child to develop the ability to pay attention, these activities come handy. So because of these activities, the child learns to sit for a longer period of time and engage their cells and also maintain their mental effort. So at that point of time, when the child is at least able to sit and do the task, that same thing will generalize into academics. It takes time, but we first need to help the child develop interest. So when the child has to learn to sit with you for longer periods of hours, start with these activities, then slowly start introducing academics after one or two activities. And when it comes to academics, don't give them all subjects at once or everything together that today five answers. When you know the child is having difficulty, we take it in a step by step manner by chunking and practicing. Practicing is very important, which we miss out on when we teach children with special needs. So whatever is taught, ensure that it is practiced and then moved on to the next concept.
Thank you, ma'am. So the component here is to chunk the parts and also practice it regularly and to gain the attention before we start working on academic skills per se, which is crucial. Next, we have a question from Dr. Ranjani and also Ms. Diana, who wants to know the most of the activities that we discussed today were most for visual learners. Could you suggest some activities for auditory learners? How is that we can build their attention skills?
Sure. So there are different kinds of learners that we have. We have auditory, we have visual, we have kinesthetic learners. So if I have to put it across for an auditory learner, I did an activity in the very beginning. I said, can you repeat after me? I've done a lot of auditory activities. B, 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 D, B, B. Can you repeat? I could also say pit, pit, pat, pit. Can you repeat? How many times did I say pit? Tell me words that start with letter S, or I give verbal instructions if I want to maintain their attention as well, that I want you to go get me a yellow colored item. I start with that step one. Step two, once they come back, I say, now you get me two blue color and one green color item. That also requires them to process information, sustain their attention to be able to listen to you. That's how you can modify activities, ask it in the form of a question. For it to be an auditory learner, visual and kinesthetic learner, you use these activities in the form of body movements like jumping on the floor, and visual. We have done these worksheets.
Thank you for sharing some practical activities that we could try out, ma'am. Next, we have a question from Ms. Ashna Sayed, who wants to know, you emphasized about the fact of minimizing distractions, right? Sometimes children tend to stay in places, especially with online learning, where it's very crowded or noisy. Okay, in those cases, what can teachers do to gain in the attention of children? Because minimizing distraction in those cases would be difficult for teachers.
So in the online setup, yes, I completely agree. It's difficult because we don't have much control what's happening on the other side. The only few things that we could do is we could give verbal prompts. We could say 1, 2, 3, eyes on me when you see children getting distracted. So you have to come up with these codes that will ensure that, okay, children are looking at you. Or you could also take help from parents, because parents definitely are partners to help children succeed. You could also tell the parent that, ma'am, I see that your child is getting distracted. I would like his focus to be there in the class. If you could support me by keeping a verbal prompt or being there beside the child, not creating dependence, but helping him to, focus on the classes would be helpful. So these are ways in which you could get it. You could also call the name and ask. Sometimes, what happens when we ask question, that's a natural tendency. We see somebody, okay, not focusing. Okay, Mr. A, please tell me this. What was I talking about? That could actually demotivate the child. So having phrases like 1, 2, 3, eyes on me, then you could call out 2, 3 children who are not paying attention, that, okay, can we come back to focus, instead of saying, I see you not paying attention. So the way we communicate with the child has a lot of makes a difference actually. So it's very important that we ensure that we use positive language. And when you see that a child who usually, gets distracted in a class or is not paying attention, but today he was very well behaved, he paid attention for a longer period of time, always remember to give a praise that, thank you, I saw you focusing. I really appreciate that. Hope you continue to do so. So we shouldn't always pick them for inattention, but also praise them simultaneously when you see that they have paid attention for longer than ever before.
So catching the child doing positives and good is very, very important. Next, we have question from Mr. Satyam Kumar, who wants to know how is that we can build and improve attention of a child who's non-verbal with ADHD.
So when we talk of a child who's nonverbal, definitely there's a comorbid condition. So you have to see what is happening. Is it a comorbid condition that is leading to, which is more severe, that needs more importance, or that has to be catered to at that point of time? So if it's a nonverbal child, what you could, if I have to think of activities, I could tell you that you could use flashcards. You can show the child 2 flashcards, take away, put those 2 flashcards with 5 other flashcards and ask, which one did I show you? You're doing it through actions. This, you make them do it with you, make them point it out to it. But then when a child is nonverbal, we first need to work on nonverbal communication, then attention, where the child has to express needs. So you first have to work on speech, you first have to work on his sitting tolerance, where you'll have to help the child make eye contact, hold the child when you're talking, not too firm, but ensure that you are looking at the child and asking the child to look at you. But over here, I would again also need to know the age of the child to come up with more activities. Therapeutic intervention will definitely help. So occupational therapy can help this child to improve the outcomes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next, we have a question from Ms. Kumari and multiple others who want to know how is that teachers can build and sustain attention of children from the high school grade levels, from that of grade 8 to grade 11. Can these activities be useful, or is there any other activities that they need to keep in mind while working with these children?
Okay. So when it comes to children who are in their teenagers, first thing is, why are they not paying attention? The antecedent. What is the triggering point? Is it ADHD, or is it just lack of interest or interest in friends around? So when you see such behaviors, it's not always ADHD. It could also be that there is lack of interest, or the child is more in, wants to trouble the others. That is just because the child is not wanting to listen to the teacher, or it could be the other way around, where the child already knows the concept. or there's something distracting where the child wants to go and play in the ground. So we need to figure out what exactly is happening. See, is it the friend who is distracting when you change the position? Talk it out. You really need to psychoeducate them. Figure out if ADHD is not a concern, what is bothering them. Sometimes it's just the thought process that teenagers come with in high school that, okay, I'll go home and study. I do not need to pay attention to what the teacher is saying. Already, because of pandemic, their ability to sustain attention and sit for longer periods of time in front of the system, when they come back to physical classes, it's going to be a lot of difference. So you can talk to them, counseling can help, but you need to first identify what is the cause. Is it ADHD? If it is ADHD, definitely treatment, I would suggest therapeutic intervention would be helpful. But if it is not ADHD, we have to figure out its lack of interest or what and move ahead accordingly.
So understanding and observing the child is very, very important to go about it. Next, we have one question from Ms. Ruvini, who wants to know, with current virtual learning experiences, children tend to get addicted to digital media and screens for a very long period of time, right? Can you suggest some ways or tips for parents and also educators to help them contain their digital media addiction or distractions that happen?
Digital media addiction has become a long, big problem for everybody because 2 years they were at home, not allowed to go out and play. And on the other hand, at times it's on us also. We also have given that to them, right? It's two-way. Children have taken it as well as we as parents have also given that okay, there's nothing to do, you can go and play. But now when we want them to minimize, we expected that it's to be done suddenly. 2 years they were addicted to it. Now school is starting, the burden, the class has become, much higher than the grade has become much higher than what they were. And now we suddenly expect that now I want my child to be away from gadgets. You really need to speak it out to the child that now it's time, we really need to start focusing, come to a mutual agreement. If you are strict with the child and snatching away, it is not going to help. It's going to create a ruckus where the child won't listen. And 1 or 2 days, yes, you might hit, you might become aggressive with the child, or the child becomes aggressive depending on the age. So it's very important to speak out to the child, be clear what is expected, and also ask the child, what is it? I understand you want to spend a lot of time, but there are ill effects to it. How can I help you minimize it? The addiction is not good. So sometimes if it's teenagers, counseling is going to help by psychoeducating them and helping them. If it is a younger child, we need to engage in behavior modification, token economy, shaping, and all those techniques. But again, we have to figure out based on the age. It is not going to go away in a day or so. It is going to take time and effort. Patience is the key, but talk it out to your child. You really need to inform that this will not work, so I need your support. How can I help you? So when you ask that, the child itself would say, okay, I will watch 1 hour. Keep that as 1 hour. But in case you watch more than 1 hour and are not willing to give it up, what do I do? Ask the child itself what is the consequence. Instead of going and hitting or engaging in a consequence by yourself, make a pact with the child. That will help. These are all little techniques of behavior modification that you could engage in. Yet, if it is teenagers, you would not even know when they are on the phone by hiding. Again, the here comes in how your bond is with your child. Your rapport building with the child is extremely important. Fostering healthy parent-child relationships will definitely help.
So communication is the key, and also setting ground rules are very, very important, and practicing it regularly is the key to go about it. Let's take the last few questions for today, ma'am. One, we have a question from Ms. Arlene Salanda, who wants to know, is it okay for parents and educators to give small punishments to children with ADHD if they don't obey or listen to us?
This is a very subjective question because here when you ask me should I punish the child or no, as per the new policies and laws, we are not supposed to punish either the teacher or the parent. There were times earlier when I look back or my parents look back at their times, yes, punishment was very, very common and it was believed that without punishment, children would not change. But now the times are changing. Children are different. We need to accept that and find out other ways. So if you ask me, I won't say If it is a child with ADHD, punishment would not work because they're not doing it intentionally. If you see, a child with special needs sometimes has no control over their behaviors and actions. So we need to change our ways where we are patient and understanding and equip ourselves as parents or educators as to how we can help them better. Because when we are working for children with special needs, things are not in control of them. They do not sometimes understand, and it's not their fault. So it's important that we equip ourselves where we can help them better. Come with better strategies. You could use timeout or take away something, use other behavior modification techniques rather than punishment. And also, when we say that punishment is being put, okay, it could be a pre-mac principle also. Only if you finish this target of yours, I will give you what you had requested for, or you will have your TV time then. That pre-mac principle can be applied. On the other hand, the other technique is we always look out on, when the child is not doing something, we want to give it as a consequence. As told earlier, when you see your child doing it, give praise. That is what children long, the encouragement, the motivation. That's when you would see that when I'm doing a good thing, I am getting something. When I'm doing a bad thing, I'm being ignored. Nobody looks at me. So sometimes that balance also can be brought about. You could use pre-mac principle than punishment is what I would.
Wonderful insights there, ma'am. Let's take the last question for today, which is from Ms. Josephine and multiple others. You've emphasized the role of educators and parents coming together to support children with ADHD. So what can teachers do in case of the parents are hesitant to accept the status or the condition of children with ADHD? What are the steps or techniques that they can use to gain in the parental trust and acceptance?
Very, very important question. So when you talk about parents, imagine if somebody is in that situation and they suddenly get to know that the challenges that the child is facing is because of, you know, what do you say? The challenges that the child is facing. One second. I had something in my. Okay, so when the teacher is not able to help the parent, so the parent here is in a state of denial because the parent is not able to accept that the child has ADHD, right? So over here, we really need to support the parent. First, you have to gain the trust of the parent, being like, I completely understand your situation. It's okay. We're going to help together. So when you use the term together with the parent develops hope that I have somebody to help me through. Instead of using terms or saying that you really have to work on your child and take your child for therapies, the child is not focusing. It is a collaborative effort. So when you work with the parent and be like, we together are going to help your child, I really need your support where we together will bring about changes. That gives hope as told. And also, if the parent is not, parent is in the denial mode, what you as teachers could do is apply those strategies in the classroom. So you would see that the child is improving. And also when the parent comes to you, talk about the strengths of the child. Usually what we do is when parent teacher meetings happen and the parents come with a lot of hope asking, how is my child doing? We start off saying, I see that your child is not able to focus. He has to put in a lot of effort, all those things. But then how many times have we actually told that your child is good at these things? I appreciate your child for this. So especially for children with for parents who have children with special needs, it's important to start off with their strengths and state that for the weaknesses we'll work together. So as a teacher, you really need to give the time and space to the parent to come to the accepting mode and also always be collaborative in your approach. At school, you definitely can use the strategies of chunking the information, using verbal prompts to get the child's information. Also, at the same time, what you could do is you could change the seating position or have a buddy system. So you do your bit from your part, and as and when you have frequent meetings with the parent, you definitely can inform that we are working on it. If you could try this at home, there would be better changes. So you also give solution, that you're also giving certain tips. So you psychoeducate yourself what is to be done, learn from your school counselors or special educators certain tips, equip yourself with a few things that can be applied, share it with the parent that they also can apply it. So when you tell them that the child has difficulty, but at the same time give them certain strategies, there is a hope developed. So it will be helpful if these things are followed.
Wonderful insights, ma'am. Building relationship with the parents, stating the strengths of the child, and for the weaknesses, working collaboratively with the parents is an approach to take. Thank you so much, ma'am, for an insightful session and taking us through a lot of practical activities that we can all apply to improve and build the attention skills of our children. We have learned a lot from you today. Your final words to all our participants today, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Revati, and thank you all, dear participants, for being so engaging in answering for the case studies. The only thing I would tell you all is when children have special needs, we need to modify our ways of dealing with them. And definitely, with patience, we'll be able to help them all. More power to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I've seen that the feedback link has already been shared on the chat box. I'd request my team members to again put in the feedback link. Dear participants, do take a time out and fill the feedback form. And also remember that the feedback goes on from rating 1 being the lowest to that of rating 5, which is being the highest based on how much you like today's workshop, and let us know how effective it has been for you so that we can improve the experience for all of you all. And before we end today's session, I'd like to finally again remind you all that we have an upcoming session on strategies, techniques to improve handwriting skills for children with academic challenges and special needs happening on the 5th of March by Dr. Neeta Mehta. Following that, we have another session on building expressive writing skills in children with special needs at basic level happening on the 15th of March by Madam Geeta Gopi N. The sessions would be happening at 4:30 p.m. Indian time, 6 p.m. Indonesian time, and 7 p.m. Singapore and Philippines time. Do register yourself and book your slots today. And see you at the next events. Until we see you for the next time, it's a big bye from Team Ability. Stay safe and take care, all of you.